Alrighty, good morning everyone. It is Monday, June 14th, 2021, and we're looking at the S&P 500 futures market. We're going to get started with our pre-market analysis here. So we're going to jump to our ultra-high time frames, see if there's any difference in the story. Everything still looks very strong, so nothing really new to be said here on the quarterly or the monthly. When we get to the weekly, the one thing that I'm noticing is we are pushing now to new highs, but we are getting to somewhat of a flat, if not a lower level on RVI. So off of the previous weekly candle, which just closed on Friday, we do have somewhat of a bearish indication there. But remember, this new candle that opened this week, we have 5 days for this to develop, and this whole story could change. The high that we made here was 39.50. Let me see here, 42.39.50. And in the overnight, we've already pushed to 47.50. So we've created a new all-time high, and you can see that it is now starting to push. So in the next few days here, if this does break above about 76 on RVI, we won't have to worry about that indication. But right now, we do have a little bit of some bearish indications on that weekly. When we get to our daily, remember on going into Friday, we had that candle that was giving us basically a pretty clear bearish indication with somewhat of an argument of a bullish indication off the lows. And so that was kind of our the two levels we wanted to watch on Friday. This candle officially closed and really did not change much for the story, but now we can see that we've pushed to a new high, at least from the overnight, and the RVI has also pushed to a new high. Now we do have the rest of today for this to develop, so this story can change as well. So right now, nothing too out of the ordinary on our daily chart. So right now there's a little bit of an indication of bearishness on the weekly. The ultra high time frames look very strong, and the daily really doesn't have any clear indications of any type of exhaustion right now. When we get to the 4 hour, we do have the bearish indication from the high that we made in the overnight, and currently there's nothing else really to be said. So there's somewhat of a little bit of a bearish indication off of the overnight high, and everything else looks pretty normal here, except for that bullish indication off of the previous daily low. So right now we have a bullish indication from the previous daily low. We could even make the same argument here on the daily. So when we dial back, we look the previous low from Thursday of last week to Friday of last week. We pushed to a higher low in price, but pushed to a lower low on the RVI. So we actually do have a bullish indication agreeing with the 4 hour indication from last week. So we do have the bullish case from the previous daily low right now on the daily and the 4 hour, with a little bit of some bearishness off of the overnight high. We look to our hourly. We also have that bullish case off of the previous daily low from Friday. And then we do have this bearish indication off the overnight high, agreeing with our 4 hour. All right, so so far nothing too strong as far as just one type of bias so far. Let's take a look at our 30-minute here. 30-minute also has that bearish indication off the overnight high. And then did not necessarily, you could make an argument that there actually was some bullishness off of that previous daily low, although not what I really like to see, but we definitely could make the argument there as well. So that previous daily low from Friday on pretty much every time frame that we're really concerned with is giving us those bullish indications, but we're starting to get a lot of bearish indications off of that overnight high. So this morning we're starting to get some guidelines here. If we cannot break above the overnight high, which happens to be 42.47.50, which is also the all-time high. So let me go ahead and mark this. We'll throw 47.50 up there. We'll make it white for all-time high. We're going to want to watch that. If we can't get above that this morning, we have a lot of bearish indications on almost all the time frames. So that could spell somewhat more of a sell-off here. And then holding above 42.2150 is going to be a really important level for the bulls here. So let's take a look at our 10-minute. 10-minute also had that bearish indication from the same previous swing high on the other time frames. And currently have a little bit of bullishness right now off of that prediction point. So you can see that we've got a little bit of a bounce so far. Just curious to see if the 30-minute was agreeing there, and don't necessarily see any agreement off of that low. But at least probably from the shorter time frames, we'll see somewhat of a nice bullish indication here off of the CP. 10-minute does have that bullish indication from the previous daily low. And so that's kind of where we are right now. If we stay above that previous daily low, we should have somewhat of a bullish morning here. If we can't get through the overnight high, then all those bearish signals are going to hold. Now looking at our ultra high, our slower time frames here, shorter time frames, the 3-minute did not actually have a clear buy signal off of the prediction point. Off the overnight high, we definitely got that bearish indication here. So pretty much every time frame had that bearish indication. We have moved from 47 all the way to 33, so we've gone just about 14 points. And then let's just take a look here. The 512 definitely had that bearish indication. The 1-minute did have the bearish indication off the overnight high. So every time frame gave us that bullish indication off the, or bearish indication off the overnight high. Let's just take a look here. So if I could just kind of wrap it all up, the ultra high time frames really do not show any signs of exhaustion until we get to that weekly, which does have 5 days to actually develop here. And since we did have somewhat of a bearish indication off of the previous candle, let me bring this up here. The previous candle did give us somewhat of a bearish indication. The high there was 39.50. We've already broken through. So we're now almost 10 points higher than we were when we did get the confirmation of that bearish indication, which tells me that it's now been basically negated. So although we did have somewhat of a bearish case there off that previous weekly candle, no longer something that we're going to want to pay attention to because we've broken above by almost 10 points now. Now it could continue to carry through, and this weekly candle, assuming that we stay where we are now or even push higher, and that does not go any higher on RVI, we will have another bearish case. But right now that weekly bearish indication essentially has been negated. So the high time frames all look pretty bullish. When we get to our daily, we don't really have clear signs of exhaustion, but we have to keep in mind that this daily signal can change because we have the rest of today for it to form. So by the end of today, this picture could look a little differently. Right now, all we have from a daily perspective is this confirmation of a bullish indication off the previous daily low. So basically, all bullish indications. The 4-hour has the bullish indication where we had it on the high time frame, the other high time frames, and then we start to get the bearish case off the high. So that's kind of where we are. We basically, if we cannot get above the overnight high, we will have a bearish case this morning. If we cannot stay above the previous daily low, then we will start to have a much more bearish bias this morning.